Hi, I'm Kelly Kettewell. I'm attending my first ASPRG this year with my coordinator, Nick Linnell. We're from ACU. I have been timetabling since 2012. I started out at UQ and moved across to ACU 3 years ago. So I've been using syllabus for quite a number of years now. Today I'm going to present to you about how we've been working with our school timetabling staff using technology to re-engage them in timetabling, to get some better data from them, to essentially work with them to put the people aspect back into our work. So I'll introduce ACU to you and a bit of context around Australian Catholic University, how we're using technology to change our training model, and how we're aligning that with ACU's service excellence strategy. And then I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent at the end and just show you our change request form that we've developed for our staff to use. Okay, so ACU is a national university which has its own interesting issues surrounding timetables, such as daylight savings. We have currently 8 campuses, with a new one coming in Blacktown in Sydney in a couple of years, but at the moment we just timetable on 6. We do technically timetable our Adelaide campus, but we have about 3 classes per semester. It's very small, so I'm not really including that one, but we do have a tiny campus here. So yeah, we won't forget them. So we have expanded massively over the last decade, 75% increase in students. So it's been a really rapid growth in a really short amount of time. I came into ACU right around the peak of that growth. And so the time I've spent at ACU has been playing a lot of catch up, both in infrastructure and processes, and just people learning how to deal with such large volumes of work that they just were struggling to get used to. So it's been really interesting working through this period. Now that numbers have leveled out, we can sort of catch our breath and head off in a new direction. So we rebuild our timetable each year. We just roll POS, modules and templates, and then rebuild the whole timetable. We have semesters and a number of teaching periods, so we do that semester at a time. All right, so we have a hub and spoke model at ACU, where we have a small central team and a large number of school timetabling officers. We call them TLOs. And so we liaise with them. Larger schools, such as nursing, education, they have 1 TLO per campus, so quite a number of TLOs once you add up our number of campuses and quite a variety of schools. We probably work with maybe 60. Nick recently did a survey of our TLOs and found that they spend roughly 8 hours a week doing timetabling. And they aren't dedicated timetablers, so they have a lot of competing workloads, and a lot of them are part-time. About 2/3 of the staff that we work with are part-time. So yes, quite interesting to get that perspective. So our central team, there are 4 of us, and each of us individually will schedule a campus when we schedule, but we have developed a working relationship with particular schools. So that's a new introduction that we have been working on, and it's seeing some results. So we found that being so disconnected geographically, we were getting different information from different schools across different campuses. And like, for instance, Sydney might tell us that they need a video conference lecture, but Brisbane was telling us it was face-to-face. So we decided to take a more central, I guess, client management perspective, and that's really helping us to engage with those timetable liaison officers, but also facilitating them talking to each other. So that's been really great for us. So our training history at ACU, what used to happen was we would conduct video conference sessions. We had a trainer in our team who didn't timetable. He was our tech officer, so he didn't have syllabus everyday use experience, but he delivered the training to our timetable liaison officers. So it wasn't very successful. No surprise that the TLOs weren't engaged with their timetabling. It was very impersonal training. Being video conferenced, he was talking to a screen. Many of the TLOs didn't have microphones, so they couldn't ask questions. So it was very overwhelming for them, and it wasn't compulsory. So there would be sessions where 2 people would show up, but there'd be a lot of new staff going into a whole semester timetabling period who would just be relying on the guides that we had written. So it wasn't an ideal situation, and we were struggling to engage with the staff. So naturally our data was poor. Because they weren't engaged, they weren't doing a very good job. They were throwing what they got given by academics into the web data collector, and we would spend a lot of time cleaning that up, trying to decipher what they were asking for. So they weren't very confident to ask us for help. Some of them just wouldn't do their data entry. We would have an entire school that we had no data for the coming semester. So it really wasn't ideal, and we needed to change our focus. So that's where we were. So our executive developed a service excellence framework, they called it, and that's part of the university-wide strategic plan. So our directors interpreted that framework, and it was up to us to implement that. And the way we decided to do that was to improve our service delivery as a team and engage with our stakeholders, so our timetable liaison officers. So then we got Skype for Business. It was installed on all PCs across the university, academic staff, all professional staff. Everyone has Skype for Business now. Our meeting rooms are now getting smart TVs instead of video conference facilities. So it's really taken off throughout our whole university now. And we decided to change our training model to work with Skype for Business. So we had a change plan and throughout our directorate, and the admin staff took on training, which actually was a good move because we know syllabus and we can explain it to the other users who need to learn how to use syllabus. So we deliver some small sessions to the TLOs regularly now. So in the lead up to data collection, we deliver web data collector training. Through the scheduling cycle, we deliver enterprise timetabler, ECP and RDM training. So it's fresh in their minds when they're about to be doing some work for us. It also has evolved over that time into ad hoc screen shares for troubleshooting. So as the TLOs are getting more familiar with Skype for Business and we're building those relationships, it's still evolving, and it's an interesting space that we're in now with that. So yeah, there's been a really positive response to Skype, and the university-wide culture has shifted, which I've just mentioned on. So it's much cheaper and more reliable than video conferencing. So we don't have to book a room to deliver the training now. We can deliver on-the-fly training whenever it's necessary. And we've also had feedback that a phone call is much more personal, and our TLOs feeling much more connected to us. So they're grateful for the time that we're spending on training now. They're feeling like we are empathetic to their situation, so budgets being cut in schools, they feel like they have less time to spend on timetabling, but they're getting more confident in the work that they're doing, so it's not taking them as long as it used to. We're also getting a lot more phone calls for questions now, rather than people calling up and asking us to do something for them because they're throwing their hands in the air, it's too hard. They also might get stuck in the middle of something and they'll pick up the phone and say, can I share my screen with you? So very quickly now they're wanting to help themselves. So the greatest impact we have noticed now is with new staff. So we've had a lot of new staff come in to the schools, and we're giving them, whilst it's not compulsory training, we're encouraging them to develop a relationship with us, and then they're wanting to do the training and they're wanting to learn how to perform their role in timetabling and understand the software and use it to solve their own problems. So they're building a trusting relationship with us, and we're targeting the training specific to their school, which is helping them when it's also overwhelming when they're new. So as I mentioned before, that we're delivering our training at specific times during the timetabling cycle to refresh where the TLOs need to be at. We're also doing this with the new staff. So I actually trained a new staff member last week where I just taught him ET. I didn't mention the hierarchy of modules and templates and activities. I was just teaching him how to add and remove staff members, how to look for rooms, how to read the timetable in ET. He already rang me the next day and said that it was, he felt like he should know more in terms of his confidence and trying to navigate just what I had taught him. And I really noticed that by just showing him what he needed at that moment, it's not such a big scary beast to learn the syllabus suite, because he's only just going to start learning web data collector in the lead up to semester 1. So it's been a much smoother process. Okay, so we're getting, what are we getting out of spending more time training and individual, more focused training? Well, much better data. We're spending much less time on our data cleanup, and we are spending less time denying impossible changes. So we would often get change requests come through for really unreasonable changes that just weren't possible. So with all the lecture theatres full through the middle of the day, people would just send through a change request to move a lecture to 10 o'clock from 5 p.m. when it's just no chance of it happening. But now they look, so they're able to read their timetable properly and able to find location availability now, and complex changes are coming through to us without us having to clarify them. So we're spending less time trying to decipher what people are asking us for, because they know what they're asking us for now. We are getting more phone calls now as a team, but they're relevant questions. They're really complex issues. They're not basic requests for us to do things that people could, have a think about themselves and figure out for themselves. So we are resolving issues quickly now, and we're able to work with our schools. If we discover a problem or a mistake we've made, we can call them up and say, we've made a mistake, let's work on solving this together. It's a much more harmonious relationship with our schools now that we've engaged them in timetabling. So here's some data that we've got from our change requests over the last 3 years, and we've had a 50% reduction in change requests from draft release through to publication. So that period of time, we view change requests to be usually from poor data that they've given us for scheduling. These are changes that that they're trying to fix what they've tried to tell us to schedule, but we've got wrong because of misinterpreting what they're asking for. So that's really dropped off now, and it's really surprised us when we're expecting a barrage of changes when we drop the draft, and they're just trickling in. It's been really amazing. So of course, change requests after publication, they're a little more complex because they're usually for unknown issues like staffing, student clashes out of sequence and that sort of thing. So this area between draft and publication has really been fascinating for us to see such a reduction. Okay, so where are we headed with our training? We're going to continue with the group refresh sessions. We've been doing a lot more individual training with staff who are still having some troubles. You know, timetabling's just not their thing. They need a little more help to get their head around it, and you know, we're providing them with that because we're seeing such an impact with our Skype training through the screen share. We're also going to start running some more advanced sessions, just short, maybe 30-minute sessions on things like making jointly taught activities. That's an area that staff are still getting wrong every period. So we're going to just work with the schools that need jointly taught activities and spend a little more time with them just on that. We're also going to start looking at running some short sessions on explaining how we make student sets and how we apply them, and instead of just how to read the timetable where the blue line is, we'll give them a bit more background for those that are interested in learning more about that. And we're also working on rolling out Microsoft Teams to all of our TLOs. So we'll work on it as a central team out to our TLOs, and we can just increase the communication channels that we have with them. Now that we have them engaged, we'll keep working with them and keep improving our relationships and see where that goes. So now I'm going to go off and show you our change request form. So this is a in-house form that was developed for us by DataBee. So it sits on the back of our exam management system. And what we have is a web interface for the TLOs to enter their change requests for our activities for their schools. And we work through those change requests on FileMaker at the back end. So this first picture here I have for you is what a TLO would see once they log into the change request form. This is mine, which I don't have any change requests as being central, but this is where they would see outstanding change requests that they have already sent through to us. And so then they will go through, and each night we upload from syllabus all of the activities that the school has currently scheduled. And so they can select from down this side here which activity they want to submit a change request for. So when they select an activity, we then have the form itself. So we've worked a lot on this form and developing the reasons for change. Prior to publication, head of school approval isn't required. So we do get frivolous changes, and if it's possible, we'll put it through. But they do need to pick a reason and explain it further in the text box below. This particular box here is where they will select head of school approval requirement for any changes to daytime or duration after publication. So I have worked with Nick to make a bit of a process map to explain through how our CRF works for us. So what we have is our web form that I've just gone through with you. So when they tick the head of school approval box for post-publication changes, an email is automatically generated to their head of school, who just needs to click a link in their email to either approve or deny the request. So I think I've seen one denial in the whole time I've worked at ACU, and it was accidental. So there's it's a process, and it's necessary, but it's convenient for the head of school. So it's a way to make sure that changes aren't going under the radar. We have had schools before who have, after allocations, decided to change the way they teach for the whole school and make a 1 hour lecture, 2 hour tutorial format into just 2 hour workshops for every unit they teach. And so we do need to have that process out the back. But we've had a lot of positive feedback around the convenience of the email to the head of school. So when our TLOs have submitted the web form, all the details come through to the back end to us in FileMaker. And we also get automatically, when the head of school clicks the approval, that approval automatically comes through to FileMaker as well. So what we then do is process those change requests in order of receipt. So previously, before I started at ACU, change requests used to be done via spreadsheets on SharePoint. And so there wasn't a lot of equity in the service provided to the schools. Our central staff would work through a spreadsheet that was received from a school and then move on to the next school. So the allocation of space wasn't really equitable, particularly on our busy campuses that were trying to catch up with the huge university growth. So by having the forms come through in this way, we just process them in order of receipt now. So that's been a much more equitable way to change classes now. So once we have done this, we either mark the change request as accepted, rejected, or on hold. Now in our service excellence, we have decided that we don't just reject change requests now, we offer a solution that's alternative. So rather than just send off a rejection to someone who has looked at syllabus and tried to find a solution, and perhaps the room's been taken by an earlier CRF, or there's just no way to do the change they've asked for. They might have missed looking at all the available weeks for a location or something like that. We'll offer them as an alternative solution. We have also introduced the on hold, which is to ask questions. So if we're not sure what they're after, we just put a change on hold and then we come back to it once they send us an email. So FileMaker links with our Outlook, and any acceptances, rejections, or on holds go through an email to the TLO, just a general automated email, which we can add extra text to. And then once we have marked the form as accepted or rejected, it will disappear from their list of outstanding CRFs. So they can keep an eye on what's outstanding in the meantime, but it neatly cleans itself up when it's finalised. And that's all I have for you today. So, thanks. Yes.
Quick question. It's Kelly.
Yes.
Your timetable liaison officers, so they have access to the system to make changes, and only the ones that they can't make come through to the central team?
So they are allowed to add and remove staff members. They're allowed to change the size of activities up to the capacity of the room it's in. But they're not allowed to move classes, days, times, locations. So at ACU, locations are all centrally sort of controlled. The schools don't have their own spaces, whilst some spaces are specific for some schools, like science labs, exercise science, that sort of thing. Yeah, we have control of those spaces, so yeah. Yes.
Are you able to select multiple activities that you're changing in one form?
No, so you're not able to select multiples, but if, for instance, you're changing tutes 1 to 10 and you're changing the duration or something like that, it's a broad change. You can put in just the one form and say in the text box, all tutes in this unit, for instance. So we don't make them put an individual form for every change if it's a bulk one. So, yeah. Yes? Yes, Fred?
Have you considered devolving timetabling to individual campuses?
So we actually used to be, when I came to ACU, it was very campus-centric. So whilst we still schedule specific campuses ourselves, it used to be such that the central team would also just liaise with the TLOs from that specific campus. But it was very siloed knowledge. And it was very, I guess, space focused. It wasn't really people and student focused. So by taking like a client management role, looking at particular departments now, we're able to be across the teaching for all the year levels for all the different courses, and also understand if someone's trying to implement a major change on one campus, that's probably going to be happening on all the campuses. We've had situations where a big change for a school has come in for one campus, but through internal communication breakdowns within those schools, that information wasn't coming to us for the other campuses. So it's just sort of, it's enabling us to be across not just the campuses that we schedule and to have that space awareness, it's also having the school, the sort of the bigger picture across the whole university. And yeah, we're really seeing that we're sort of picking up some stuff that would down the track become timetable issues before they can become timetable issues. So, yeah. Yes?
Can I ask, so is the build done centrally? Like, do the school staff not have much of a hands-on role in the build?
No, they don't. We are increasing our liaison with the schools while we build each semester's timetable. So they give us all the data through Web Data Collector. They also update or create new POS through ECP. And then we use all of that data to build the semester timetable. But yeah, we are working with them more through that process. It used to be they give us the data, we schedule, have a look at it. Now, particularly with areas like arts and education that are really closely entwined, we'll sort of show them we'll call them up and say, can you have a look at your timetable for these units? It's not working very well. What can you suggest? Rather than sort of moving on and running out of space and that sort of thing. So.
Are the student sets done at the school level?
We create the student sets. Yeah. So they create their POS, and then we create the pathways and student sets. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned with your change request form that you bring your data across, so all your updated syllabus data into the back end.
Yep.
Do you do that? I guess every single night, or just during a certain time frame?
We do it every night. So we take a CSV file from Classic each night, and then we upload that into FileMaker. If like over Christmas and New Year, if we don't have changes coming in, we won't run the update. It's essentially, it's to capture deleted activities, new activities, if there's been changes to day and time, that sort of thing, just to keep the information fresh for the staff to pick if they're making a change. Yeah. Yes.
Can I just clarify with this change request form, which is really good. How do you work out with the users? Is it just the TLOs that have access to actually put that form in? And then how does the hierarchy for the head of school, is that set up?
Yes. Yes, so we give the TLOs access to the schools that they look after. So national TLOs will get access to each campus for their school. And essentially we also have the departments set up within our FileMaker, and we put in the head of school information which has been given to us by the schools. So sometimes it's not the head of school who's the approval, it might be a deputy head of school, or a head of school on a particular campus might undertake that for the nationally for the school. So it's information that we look after. Yeah, it doesn't come out of the like the staff system or anything. It's just it's what we're given by the schools. Yeah.
It's not academics putting in the request. It's
the TLOs. Yes. Yeah. Yes, yes. So we don't deal with the academics. So we trust the TLOs to build those relationships and get the information from them. So.
Sorry, can I just clarify with regards to the users then? If then you have changes in the hierarchy, you have to maintain that.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yep, yep.
Do you know what the main reason of change is in terms of what they put in as the reason?
Nick.
So I guess if you break it down into two phases in the draft form, it's because we didn't schedule what they wanted or they didn't tell us what they wanted and we misinterpreted it. It's normal. And then post publication, deletions. Everyone's greedy. They want more space than they need and they realise they don't need it. Delete. Hiring sessional staff, so changes days, times because of the staff availability. So normal timetabling things. I'll talk about this more tomorrow, but we don't see as much growth in the sector. So the overestimation is a hangover from 5 years ago. Everyone knows that stuff, but yeah, we work within that. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I was just wondering, so you provide the TLOs with access to enterprise timetable, and they can change their activity size. Do you restrict access so that they can't change to their room?
Yes, they're not able to change rooms. It's not part of their access level. So yeah, yeah.
I was going to ask, how do you audit that?
Yes. No.
Don't give it to them in the first place.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah, hi. You mentioned that the TLOs are sort of most of them are doing this part-time, 8 hours a week. Do you find that there is variation, I'm sure there is variation, but variation with the position description of these people within the schools?
Yes, very much, and even more so now with change plans rolling through the schools with their limited budgets. We have people who spend some days doing finance, HR, but very broad admin in schools, everything. We have some people who are like EAs to head of school and that sort of thing doing it. So yeah, they really do come from everywhere. Pretty much all of them wouldn't have timetabling background when they come to us. So that's why we're seeing a lot of early confidence and ability with the way we're training them now. Really noticeable. Yeah. Yes.
What do you deal with very urgent changes?
So they usually give us a call. We can't skip the approval process from the head of school post-publication, but of course within reason there's always a grey area, and yeah, we always work together with Nick and if need be our associate director to work through urgent changes. So yeah. All good. Thank you everyone. I look forward to meeting you.